On this episode of Fitness Junkeez, I go to Elite-OSM in Las Vegas to meet with Dr. Sean Plake to see if he can help keep me moving. He starts with assessing my injury history and my current mobility.
Each person that comes in, it's just, I take it as like a more unique experience for that person. So instead of something cookie cutter, like I'm gonna assess you and figure out exactly what motions are bugging you.
Then he uses several unique treatments to accelerate my recovery.
Femur right there, those deep external rotators.
He doesn't stop until I'm feeling better and I've made measurable improvements.
Man, that was
It's a lot, right?
an experience. Like, I've done a lot to keep moving, and that is like next level.
It was an amazing journey, and I'm taking you with me. Enjoy the show. What's up, Fit Fam? This is Giovanni of Gio's Logic, your host of Fitness Junkeez. I hope this show meets you in good health and spirits, and if not, I hope it inspires you to do something about it. Today's show topic is called Keep It Moving, and when I say it, I mean me. Over the last 5 to 7 years, I've been doing a lot of research on loss of mobility as you get older and the association with all-cause mortality. One study I came across, the conclusion says near elderly persons, which is the head of household between the ages of 50 and 62 years old, with better mobility had a higher quality of life. Diseases that decrease mobility, such as arthritis, are likely to have a significant impact on the quality of life. And unfortunately, I am in that near elderly category. I am 57, so that is troubling for me because I do have some arthritis and I have to keep moving. My guest co-host today is a master at keeping everybody moving, whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior. He uses a integrated approach to physical therapy. He's got a lot of different unique techniques, and I just want to welcome Dr. Sean Plake. How are you?
Doing great. Good morning, everybody.
Awesome. So before we get into our episode here, let's hear about your journey. You said you had an interesting story. I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out as a personal trainer myself, right out of high school. I was always into sports, always into fitness, keeping my body moving really well, trying to stay strong, fast, keep the muscle mass, all the things. And right after high school, initially I was going into college for pharmacy. And after about a year, I decided that wasn't for me, and I had a bunch of friends that was in the exercise science program, and it's something I never thought about. I'm like, well, I'd love to work out. Like, I'm in personal training currently. Like, why not just continue that?
Next level.
I can be like a strength and conditioning coach or physical therapy, stuff I hadn't really thought about, but like just made sense at the time. So I changed my major to exercise science. Loved that degree. Like, I had a great experience with that. By the time I was done with those 4 years, I was still kind of up in the air with exactly what I wanted to do. I was a little lost with it. At the time I was thinking occupational therapy. Physical therapy was just like really competitive at the time.
And where was this? Where'd you grow up?
This is in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Okay.
So I went to the University of New Mexico. And for those 4 years, once I switched my major, I was all about it. Kind of went full in with that degree. By the time I was done with it, like I said, I was a little up in the air about exactly what I wanted to do. And then I took a little break for about half a year, almost a full year after that, and just worked as a personal trainer full time. And I loved it, but I was just getting burnt out. Like, it was just a lot of hours, like early mornings, like starting at 5 a.m., working until 12 or so, then you get that little break, then I'm back working all the way until 8 or 9, just trying to get as many clients as I can. And like I said, yeah, it was a little overwhelming at the time. I was looking for the next step, trying to go back to school, figure out what was going on. I needed one more physics class to go into PT, which I was leaning towards at the time.
Got it.
Either PT, or I was looking into some chiropractic schools out of state, because there's nothing in New Mexico as far as chiropractic goes. And I've always been interested in back popping. Like, I would adjust my family and friends growing up and stuff. Yeah, just like the big squeeze right behind you. Like, I was just super into it. And I was always adjusting my own neck and popping my fingers and stuff. Just loved it.
Right.
But never really thought about it as a career. So around that time, like I said, I was a little lost. But the spring of 2014, I ended up, I'm a big snowboarder, so I love to go out and ride the mountain a lot. So one of the trips I went on, it was the very last day, like one of the last runs I could have done. I ended up doing a jump and a little trick. I thought I was really good back then. So I was getting a little brave, but I ended up breaking my left clavicle really bad. So I came down off of the jump, hit my shoulder. I was like, uh-oh, something's wrong. I thought I dislocated it.
Right.
Kind of checked. I was like, no, my shoulder seems fine. And then I felt a little bit higher. I was like, oh, that's not good. So ended up breaking my clavicle. And that was just a crazy process. Like, I was in surgery 3 days later. A lot of clavicle breaks that don't require surgery. Right. They just kind of heal on their own. But mine broke in a way that I needed a titanium plate, 8 screws, like, to really reinforce it. So the recovery process during that whole time was a little rough for me. Like, the surgeon's like, after about 3 months, you're going to be fine. I was like really anxious to get back to working out. And at the time, I was still personal training, so I was trying to show everyone exercises in a sling, like how to get really good about my verbal cues.
Right.
So it was rough at the time. And like I said, the surgeon said 3 months, you're going to be fine. You'll be moving again. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'll do my physical therapy and see the people I need to see. So I was doing all that. And 4 or 5 months into it, like, my arm wouldn't go past 90. So I was like, this isn't good. Like, I'm like in a lot of pain. I'm not moving.
Physical therapy?
Yeah, I was doing all the therapy. I was getting a little frustrated with it. I'm like, they're not really doing much. Like, I'd studied a lot of corrective exercise around that time anyways. Mm-hmm. So I felt like I was doing more on my own than what they were offering me. It was just super basic stuff. Like, I couldn't move my arm. They're having me do these exercises with bands and stuff. I'm like, I can't do that. Like, it's not working. So I was getting super frustrated. Hit about 5 months. And once again, the surgeon said three months I'd be moving it well. And he's like, 6 months you should be like back to normal, like good to go. And I was like, it's almost 6 months. So I was just like searching different people to see. I was like I need something else. Right. I came across Dr. Bo Hightower's page on Facebook. At the time, I was following him for a while, and I was like, man, let me just try this guy out. Like, he's seeing a bunch of athletes. Like, some of his videos just seemed a lot different than what the therapists I was going to were doing. Right. So I went and tried him out. It was an interesting experience. Like, it was just, he had his own office. He had one other employee with him. And at the beginning, I was like, this is a pretty cool place. Like, he had a bunch of jerseys and some pictures of a lot of pro athletes on the wall and stuff. I was like, this is cool. Like, I'm active. I'm an athlete. Like, this is the place I need to be. And then before you know it, like 1 or 2 sessions later, like, he had me moving. Like, he definitely beat me up. He was jamming his thumb in my trapezius and like just loosening up my shoulders.
I know a little bit about that.
Yeah, so you know how it is. So like, going through that experience, I'm like, wow, like after 2 sessions, like, I did all that. Like, it hurt like hell, but I'm moving now. Like, I'm so grateful for this. Saw him a few more times, and then I got my full range back. I was weak at the time because I hadn't worked out. I haven't lifted my arm over my head for 6 months. Wow. But I was just like so amazed by the whole process. It got me moving really well. Super excited about it. So like immediately I'm like, man, I kind of want to do this now. Like, can I shadow you? Like, it seems like he had just moved back like maybe a few months before that. Mm-hmm. He was out in different states studying and practicing, like in Texas, Ohio, different places like that. So he was just starting his business back in Albuquerque, and I was like, oh man, like, can I help out? Like, I'm a personal trainer. Like, I'd love to just be around the office. Like, I wasn't expecting to get paid or anything, so I just wanted to shadow. So anytime I wasn't in school taking classes, or I wasn't personal training, I was there just shadowing, showing my interest. And I'd learned a lot, like, right then and there. And I was like, man, I really want to do this. Like, what can I do to get to that level? And he's like, at least he's like, one of my assistants, he's in massage school right now, so at least have a hands-on license, and then I can start teaching you stuff, and that's going to be the best thing for you. And I was like, yeah, like, I'm a personal trainer anyways, like, adding massage to the mix, plus all my corrective exercise background, that sounds perfect.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And So I immediately, like a week later, I signed up for the same massage school that his employee was at. And yeah, like they pointed me in the right direction. I continued shadowing. A few months into school, I backed off of the personal training I was doing. I actually quit the place I was at, the gym, just because the owner there, like, since I was backing off my hours, he wasn't happy about that. And he's like, why would you get your massage therapy license? I was like, because I think it could advance my career. And he's like, no, that's stupid. Like, you're doing great personal training. But he just wanted me there 40, 50 hours because I was bringing in money. You know?
Right.
So we had a little falling out there. I quit that, just jumped off on my own for personal training, which was scary too. Because I was like, man, like, what do I do? I had a cousin at the time that was at a gym. He had just started branching off on his own as well. So I kind of followed his footsteps and got into a gym on myself that I was just paying rent, and just had like a handful of clients at the time.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah. So I just kind of just threw myself into it. And that part just kept increasing. And then I got the job at Dr. Hightower's office as well as a rehab tech. So with our practice, we have rehab techs that help teach all the clients proper exercise.
Is that the guy that I worked with before I went? Okay.
Yeah, so that guy that you met, I think Tyler was there that day. Tyler or Orion, so one of those two.
The Indian-looking guy?
Yeah, that's Orion. So he's one of my assistants. And
so that's what you did first?
Yeah, exactly. So I was that, and that went hand in hand with the personal training and the corrective exercise I was doing. So it was just a cool journey, because I started off as a patient, and then I became a tech, and then massage school was about 9 months. It's supposed to be a year, but I was able to test out of a lot of the anatomy portions and all that from my exercise science and background. So it shortened it up for me, which was nice. So once I got my massage license, I started going through the orthotherapy certification. So that's what Bo's kind of trademark is. Like, he just calls like the whole thing that he's put together orthotherapy. So he taught me a lot of those techniques, and at the time it like wasn't any adjustments. It's just real specific soft tissue techniques for different areas. Like, each area has a real specific technique, which was well beyond just everything in massage school. But it just complicated. It complemented each other well. Like, all the stuff I was learning in massage school, my personal training background, my athletic background, and then now learning this more advanced stuff, like, it was just all making sense to me.
Right.
So I was like, oh, this is perfect. Became a therapist, and then just from there, like, it just took off. I did that for about a year, just treating that way. And I was still doing my personal training stuff on the side, which was nice. So it was just kind of dual incomes. I was like, yeah, man, like, I actually felt like I had purpose, and I knew where my life was going at that time. So it was a good feeling. My clavicle was great. Like, a few things I had to keep up with to make it move, but I was starting to get my strength back. Like, just everything was really good at that point.
And you said that with that ortho therapy or certification, is that how you got the DR in front of your name? Is that?
No, so the DR, so after training for about a year, just doing the massage therapy and the orthotherapy, I wanted to get to the next level, do more of the advanced stuff that he was doing. So I was like looking into some chiropractic schools. Like I said, the only ones that were nearby were like Texas. I think there's one in California, but the one I was looking at was actually in Portland, Oregon. And it was a really good school. Like, I was thinking about it, but like looking at tuition and stuff, it was going to be like $200 grand, you know, like,
right.
It's super expensive.
And then you'd be leaving your whole income sources.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, this is like, I want to stay at this place. I don't want to like leave and then like miss out on this opportunity and stuff. So luckily there's a school that just came to Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is an hour away from Albuquerque where I lived. And that school was called Southwest University of Naturopathic Medicine. So the owners kind of reached out to us and let us know like what they're about and whatnot, because they had seen Bo online, because he has a pretty big presence online.
Right.
So they knew of him, reached out for him to actually teach some of their classes. So that's how we actually found out about the school. And I was like, man, this looks really cool. Like, it's basically that next level that I need.
Right.
Like, I can learn a lot of the mobilization techniques. Like, it's a doctorate program, 3 years long. I was still worried about missing work, but they're like, no, like, half of this is online. You have to come to class 2-3 days a week. And you can continue working. And I was like, that's great. Like,
nice.
I can at least stay part-time, you know?
Right.
So it just kind of all worked out. I got enrolled like pretty quickly. And I was like, man, this is going to help me get to that next level without having to or apply for like PT schools and chiropractic schools and stuff and go out of state, basically. So that was there. I applied, got in right away, and then started going into that program. So
being a doctor of chiropractor and a doctor of neuropathy, is there a difference?
Yeah. So Bo's actually a doctor of both, but they're very similar. Chiropractic focuses a lot more on high velocity adjustments, and they don't do nearly as much soft tissue work unless the chiropractor decides to.
Right.
You know, but most of them are like, if you've been to a traditional chiropractor, they just focus on very quick adjustments, like in and out, like just seeing as many people as they can.
Right.
And I had been to chiropractors like that growing up for some lower back pain that I had.
Right.
So I went pretty regularly, so I was familiar. And then I even shadowed a few chiropractors when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, like back in my exercise science degrees. And I was always back and forth on it. I was like, there needs to be more, like all the personal training stuff I was doing, I was helping a lot of people. I was like, if I can integrate those two, like that'd be really cool. But I had no idea of anything that really did that until this program.
So then would you say chiropractic and then what you do? Because that's what I would say after that experience.
Yeah, I mean, it just gives you, I won't say one's better than the other, but it just depends on the practitioner and how they approach each patient. So I just want to give that patient more of what they need. In my experiences in the past, those quick adjustments, they just don't last, right? So you get adjusted, you feel good for a couple of days, but your tissues are still tight, especially all the fascia involved and then particular muscle imbalances and whatnot. So, and I learned all about that, and I was like, oh, we need that next level. So if we add that to it, it just makes sense. Like if you treat all the tissues, make them loose, get them balanced, then your adjustments are going to hold better.
So I went to Elite-OSM in Las Vegas, and this video is going to show kind of an overview of the experience. Let's take a look.
Each person that comes in, it's just, I take it as like a more unique experience for that person. So instead of something cookie cutter, like I'm gonna assess you and figure out exactly what motions are bugging you, what could have caused it. So we just look a lot more in depth into everything that has been involved in your past, whether you've had like the accidents you talked about, the way you heard it, things you can't do. So just a lot more further evaluation in that sense. Okay. And as far as treatment goes, we use a combination of soft tissue work and then some mobilizations. Cool. So instead of just adjustments, like a lot of traditional chiropractors, they'll just get you, oh, SI joint, let's twist you real quick, boom, boom, off. Like
Cracking out of here.
Yeah, come back if it keeps hurting. But for myself, I'm gonna test you, find a motion that hurts you, and then we'll do some soft tissue work, release the muscles that are probably inflamed or tight in that area, because that's how you respond to trauma, like your muscles tighten up to protect itself.
Right.
So if you never adjust those tight muscles or tight tissue, whether it's fascia, especially in the SI joint, there's so much that can be involved right there. Okay. So we check out what's tight, what might be underactive, overactive, figure out what's going on, get that all moving really well, adjust if we need to. Cool. So it's just a full-on approach. So we take a lot more time with the person, and then by the time you leave, like I'm gonna retest, make sure you feel better by the time you leave. That. The way the tissues work, like you can see this fascia here, so I focus a lot on this area. You can see the lat ties into the thoracolumbar fascia here. Same with the glutes. So there's just a lot of tie-ins here that make this area super vulnerable. Got it. So we probably treat low back the most, neck probably secondary. So those are the issues that most people have because the back's so vulnerable. That's kind of what we specialize in. We want to keep people moving, and whenever the doctors that say, don't do whatever hurts, you can get that from doctors sometimes, right? Right. It's like runners, they've done marathons all their life, and the doctor's just like, oh, just stop running, and they're like, no, that's like my life.
Right.
So fitness is part of your life, so you want to make sure that you're moving and grooving. That way you can do everything that you want to do.
So, yeah, when you said that about how doctors sometimes just say, you love running, but your knee's hurting, stop running and you'll be fine. That is basically my journey over the last, I would say, 30 years, because in high school playing football, I got my first knee injury, which was cartilage. And then in the next, I'd say probably about 8 to 10 years, I had a right knee cartilage removal and then a left knee cartilage removal again. So since then, I'm sure my body has been overcompensating, and I've been negotiating life going, oh, okay, well, I can't ski anymore because that causes me too much pain. I love skiing, but I can't do that. Well, I can't do spinning classes anymore. So I'm negotiating back and back until I'm like not moving and doing the things I wanted. So when you said that, that was like, this guy knows what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
Do you find that as how a lot of people come to you almost in a desperation to keep doing what they do?
Yeah, that's happened a ton, especially for like some of the things we mentioned there, as far as skiing or running. Like those are big ones. Like people are just avid about things like that. So if they go to the doctor and like they're just like, you should stop doing this. It's causing pain. Like, but we're just like, this is something you love. Like we're gonna try to do everything we can to be able to make this comfortable for you. If it still continues to hurt, we try everything. Then it's like, okay, it's doing more harm than good.
Right.
We'll try to figure something out.
Right.
Something else out for you to do. But most of the time, even if it's like a cartilage issue or even a disc issue, like something that's on imaging that just looks bad, a lot of times your actual pain is not coming from that. So pain can be caused more from just soft tissue, tightness, adhesions, trigger points, like a little more superficial than what the imaging shows. So we treat all that and we're making some progress. We'll know right away if that's what it is or if it is more of the deeper level that's causing something. So I try to treat that, do everything I can to increase the range of motion, loosen up that tissue, just make everything move a lot better. And I'd say probably 70, 80% of the time, that's what it turns out to be. So people are really amazed. They're like, well, all these doctors said I can never do all this stuff. And I was like, no, like it's fixable. Like we just treated these muscles that were tight and pulling you out of alignment or pulling you off track a little bit, or just not allowing you to get to that full depth. Like for skiing, for example, like if your knees can't absorb that motion, like that shock absorption of just bending up and down, like taking on all those moguls type of thing.
Right.
Basically, we make that possible, and
Right.
then you can do what you do more comfortably and be happy.
Which is a joy for people like me that are dying to keep moving.
Yeah. So people are really amazed by that, and I love seeing that satisfaction just because they're so disappointed. Like you said, that's it's kind of like their last hope. Like they've seen so many doctors, and like usually it's a recommendation. Like someone just like, oh, go try this guy. Like he's helped me. So they get recommended. They don't really have too high expectations coming in, so that's nice. So once I do kind of exceed those expectations, which most of the time we're able to at least get a little bit better, the person's really happy, especially if we can take them to that next level. Like sometimes it's mind-boggling for even myself.
Right.
It's like, wow, I wasn't even confident that we'd be able to fix that, but
we
tried and we did, and
right.
now we're all happy.
Right. So your office is in the Extreme Couture building, and how did you get in there? That seems like such a great spot.
Yeah. So that all started back in Albuquerque, once again with Dr. Hightower. He was treating a few fighters at the time at his office that I went to, which is offsite. We had a totally different location when I first started. He was treating, I think, mostly Diego Sanchez at the time. Like I think that was his first main UFC athlete. Mm-hmm. And then Diego's like the type of guy that like everyone knows about and talks. Yeah. So he was all stoked about it. Like he was he's always looking for the next best thing. So
Right.
he was getting that and like feeling great and stuff. So he told all the fighters at Jackson Wink Academy, and before you know it, like a bunch of these fighters were coming in to see Dr. Hightower, and then like the coaches got word of it and stuff, and then they were in the process of getting a new building for their gym. It's a gigantic building, like a great location, and it just made sense. Like they reached out to us to partner up with them and basically be the in-house doctors and help their athletes throughout camps and stuff. So it just made sense. Like so once they made that new location, we built our offices inside of it, and we just made a little connection there. Like we treated the fighters, like made sure that they're good all the way up until their fights, and it worked out really well. Like we didn't have hardly any fighters ever drop out of fights. So
Right.
and that's pretty common in the UFC. Like they get these injuries like right before a fight, and they have to drop out of their fight, and then they're not going to get paid.
Right.
So that's it's just kind of a win-win for all of us. Like the fighters were able to fight, we were able to get them moving better. Like it just really worked out well. So we did that. We were there for it was like a year after I had finished my orthotherapy certification.
Mm-hmm.
So I got that experience with all these fighters right off the bat, and that was really great. Like I just learned so much more about MMA, and I was already a fan, but like my understanding for it and just my love for it like just jumped up exponentially, and I was like, man, this is really cool. And from there we would start traveling a little bit with some of the fighters, kind of be like a safety net. So
Right.
And a lot of times the fights are in Vegas, so that we're out here quite a bit. And the
okay.
more we were out here, we started making connections with some of the fighters out here. Like about 2 summers ago, we actually brought our tables and stuff and tools, and we set up an Extreme Couture's gym.
Got it.
Just to kind of introduce what we did to their gym. And like the manager loved it, and all the fighters, like they're just like, oh man, this is great. And they have massage therapists and stuff on staff, but once again, like this is a little beyond that. So we're like, we can help you guys. Like they're like, okay, like we actually have some offices in the back, like they're taken right now, but in the future if they open up, we'll let you know. And we're like, oh cool. Like we've always talked about expanding because we're doing really well in Albuquerque.
Right.
Like it'd be actually cool to bring this to different cities, different states, things
Right.
like that. So about a year after that, like they reached out to us and they're like, these offices are open if you guys still want them. And Bo let us know like all the staff that we had, and at this time there's 6 or 7 doctors. So he just asked each of us. He's like I won't be able to move out there because I still need to run this office.
Right.
But if 1 or 2 of you guys are interested in starting this office, this location, like you can, and I'll help as much as I can. Like it'll be a good move for you. And I was. At the time, I was like, man, that seems really cool. Like, I love Vegas. I've been there a lot. Like, it just seems really awesome. I can branch out and just advance my career that much more.
Right.
But I was still back and forth on it. It was a big move. I'd never left home before, not even for school.
Right.
Super close to my family and my friends and stuff.
Right.
So I was super back and forth on it. But something just, like, stayed in the back of my mind. Like, after a few months, I was like something's telling me that I need to go. Like,
Right.
I just need to get out there, give it a shot. So I pretty much decided on it at that point, and then that was right where all the COVID stuff started happening. So I just started my process of getting my license transferred into Nevada and whatnot, and all the COVID stuff happened. So I'm like, oh man,
timing.
Yeah. So I was like, dang, is that a sign? Like, do I need to not do this?
Right.
So luckily, all the processing of all my stuff like took some extra time, so it gave me a little more time to get comfortable instead of just jumping right into it. And I mean, that was last spring, spring 2020, and that was when things were really bad. Like everything was shut down and whatnot. Luckily in Albuquerque, we were able to stay open with our business. So we had like 1 slow week, and then people started coming back in. We're taking all the precautions, wearing our mask and social distancing and everything.
Right.
But it was good to be there still because I was able to generate income. Able to save a lot. So once I started getting that savings up and getting a little more comfortable, I was like, it's still in the back of my mind. I still want to move. Like the opportunity's there, but it's kind of closing. Like the office is empty right now.
But for how long?
Yeah, but they need to fill it. Like their business too, so you're going to fill it sooner than later.
Right.
So I was like doing everything I could to speed up my license process. which was a pain in the butt because these people weren't in the office. Like I had to email them, I had to fax them, I had to mail in all my paperwork that I was getting from other areas, like my old school, like the testing agency. So I had to it was just a big old mess. It took so much effort, a lot of money too, like fees for everything.
Right, of course.
So I was like, man, there's so much going on going into this move. Like it still made me back and forth on it, but come around like May, June, I was like, it was finally getting there. And I was like, all right, like I think this is gonna happen. Like even though it's COVID, like it's gonna get better.
Right.
I just need to jump on this opportunity. I can always come back if it doesn't work out, type of thing. So at that point, I started making a few trips to Vegas and looking at apartments, things like that. And, I decided on it, and shortly after that, I got all my license transfers and all that. So everything was pretty official. So all I had to do now is find a place and sign the lease. So I did that in about July of last year, and then it was up to moving at that point. So I was able to get everything moved mid-September. And how much of a pain in the butt moving is, especially across states. So,
done that.
Yeah, it was a lot. So much went into this. I was like, man, this better pay off. Like this was a lot of money, a lot of time. Like I was missing out on all the normal paychecks I was getting starting off because I was so busy back in Albuquerque. I had this established clientele that would just trickle in without me having to work very hard because I had been working there for the last 5 years.
Right.
So it was scary, and I was like, I have to start all over. Like it was super weird seeing 13 to 15 patients a day dropping down to 1 or 2, some days 0. I'm just sitting in my office like, oh man, this is cool. It was kind of nice to have some time to myself and work on some other things, but it was scary. Like I'm not making any money because I'm not seeing anyone.
Right.
So. But
now you have some heavy hitters. You have like a few champion UFC fighters.
Yeah, I've been very, very fortunate. So.
Ngannou. I saw Valentina. Is she one of your clients?
I met her at a UFC event in Houston. So I didn't actually work on her. But going to these events, you get to meet a lot of the fighters and kind of network a little bip. So I'm there if she needs me. But yeah, I haven't treated her. So I definitely treated Francis recently. And then Aljo is another one. He just won the championship early March. So in March, basically, both those guys won their titles, which was really awesome. I was like, man, this is so cool. And then shortly after that, I started treating Misha Tate, which Misha Tate I've been following for a long time.
I know, wow.
Is
she still fighting?
Yeah, she was a former champion, and she retired to have 2 children. Okay. So she had her babies, and now she's making her comeback. She actually fights in July. So.
Oh, she's fighting on the Connor card?
Yeah.
Wow.
The week after that.
Oh, okay.
It's a fight night right after that. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm excited to see her get back into it.
Yeah,
we're getting her moving great, taking care of some old injuries and stuff, and making her feel good. But that's pretty awesome because she's her recent child is only 9 months old, so she's still doing all her mom stuff.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Half the time, she has her older daughter with her, just in the ring or right next to her. It's cool just to see that level athlete that at that level just making it happen.
Right. And, with kids and dealing with the whole thing.
Yeah, I can't even imagine you can being a parent that's a job in itself, plus being a professional fighter and doing everything you have to do to keep your body right. And
I just got a puppy, and I don't know how people can deal with kids. I don't have any kids.
Yeah, exactly. Same here.
Yeah. So normally we go into a gym and have my guest co-host show me actual exercises, but instead we did something a little different, and we had Dr. Plake show some of his specific techniques he uses. So let's look at what he did, and this is cupping.
All right, I got some cupping on the low back. Cupping I like to use just to help relieve pressure on the area. So that helps take pressure off your nerves by creating a little lift in the fascia and the muscles. So it just grabs that skin, that fascia, creates a lift, and then that creates the pressure release. So basically nerve decompression is what we're going for here.
Got it.
And in the meantime, so that's doing some work for me over there, and I can do some stuff with my elbow here. glutes really good. Yeah, like I said, your hip extension's good, but you can definitely tell your external rotators are tight. You're trying to get in there to move your femur, and it's fighting me for sure. The hamstring tightness always pulls into the pelvis as well. There's a good one. So that's no joke. We treat pretty aggressively, and we're trying to get some faster outcomes. We've had to do that just over time. We've been working with MMA athletes at this high level for the last 7-8 years.
Oh, wow.
So you can only imagine the injuries that they come up with 2 or 3 weeks before a fight, and we're just like doing everything we can to get them moving enough to get through their fight. That way they can still have a chance at winning and making that money. Because if they pull out of every fight, you're not going to make any money. Unfortunately, we got 2 sides. Hopefully the right side's not as bad as the left.
That's laughter and fear.
Yeah. He's like, oh great. Have to do it all over again.
So cupping is all the rage. And you explained it there, but can you break it down a little bit more? Like, how is that helpful in the process of healing?
Yeah, so cupping helps a lot with muscle constriction. In a certain area of pain, you're typically having your nerves that are in some kind of dysfunction or disorder. So usually it's the tissue that's causing, like a bundle of tissue, whether it's a trigger point or the fascia is just really bound up in that area. Basically, it's constricting the nerves, kind of strangling them in a sense. So the more pressure you have on nerves, the more that signal is going to get to your brain that something's going on there. So that's basically why we have pain or achiness or discomfort, is your nerves are getting irritated. So the cupping helps take a little pressure relief off of those nerves in that area.
Got
So
it.
you press it on, or there's various ways. Like the original way is to use fire in a glass cup. So you put the fire into the cup, that takes all the oxygen out, and then you put it on the skin, and that creates the suction. So that's the traditional Chinese method. And then since then, we've just been able to make it a lot safer and just easier to work with. So there's the plastic cups that are still circular that you can just pump on, which sometimes I use those, but those are all a little bit smaller. So the cups I like to use have a little larger circumference, and they're silicone, so I can just push them on with my hand. Makes it really easy. I can do it in half a second, like just throw it on in the area. I like to put it like on the back or shoulders while I'm working another area. That way we're getting 2 things done. So
What you did there.
yeah,
Right.
so that's basically, it's just super helpful to incorporate, super easy to do, and it's something that I always recommend people to do at home as well. So,
Yeah, I see a lot of fighters with those cupping marks.
yeah.
That seems to be a different type of cup than what your cup is a bigger,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's a larger one, so it just depends on the area.
Right.
Most people have anyway, like a therapist that's using cupping, they usually have like the same sets. So those are like the smaller ones you see.
Got
And
it.
those come with probably like 20 different cups, so you can just throw a lot of cups on someone, which a lot of therapists do. I'm usually not one to practice that way. I'd rather just work on a few areas at a time with a few cups, because I feel like it's a little overwhelming having like 20, 30 cups on you.
Right.
Like you probably, like most people have probably seen pictures online of just someone having like 1 billion cups on them.
Right.
And then they get very like,
Scarred up. Not
yeah,
scarred up.
yeah,
but-
they're super bruised up from it all. And the bruises come from broken capillaries. So the more pressure you put into the cup and the longer it's there, more likely you're going to be red. It doesn't mean that area is any worse. It just
Right.
means that you're breaking up more tissue, which, as long as you're getting the tissue underneath that I was talking about, as long as that's releasing, that's all you need. Like, you don't have to make the person super red. That doesn't mean that more is going on in that area.
Right.
You are increasing blood flow and whatnot, but it's not in that way that a lot of
One
people
doesn't
think.
equal the other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
Got it.
once again, it's more nerve decompression. You're not just trying to pump that cup as hard as you can and create a release. Like I've seen people leave cups on too long with too much pressure, and the person ends up having like these gnarly blisters all over. Like it creates blisters from so much pressure. So we don't want to get to that level.
Yeah,
that's not very comfortable.
Right, right. So the doc got out his Thor hammer and put it on me. Let's see what that looks like.
Okay, not too far off. We're gonna do my other technique here and just realign you a little bit better. So you're shifted a little bit to the left here. And this was from the front side, this was the hip that was anteriorly rotated. So that means in the back side, it's gonna be a little bit pushed down, posteriorly rotated.
Okay.
So basically, you just wanna kind of work both those angles. Right here. Basically, just talking to your muscles, talking to your structure, finding a better place for it. Hamstring attachment, femur right there, those deep external rotators. Tenderize that IT band a little bit. All right, this one we're gonna bring down some. Change the angle. Same thing right there. All right, so nice and fluid now. I can just move your lower back and your hips are just nice and loose. Yep. So that's a good sign right there. Awesome.
How do you feel after that?
Wow.
How are we doing, Buzz?
Next level everything.
Yep. So a little bit of torture, but it's gonna go a long way. One more thing we'll make it. So go to your left as far as you can. And as you get range of motion through this, keep going farther, okay? You can actually see him moving more as I do this. Okay, one more time with that. That help increase it some?
Much better.
Much better with that one.
That was cool, like getting more movement, like right in the session.
Yeah.
But like, it was so funny. Like when we were taping that, I felt you hammering me, but I had no idea what it was until I saw the video.
Yeah, cool.
That was pretty cool.
It's an actual hammer.
So help me and the audience understand why that kind of a jarring activity on the muscles and joints helps or expedites healing.
Right. So with that, we're talking to the nervous system a bit, all the neuroreceptors and everything involved with movement. We're talking to that and helping increase range of motion with each hit. It's kind of like some tapotement mixed with another technique, but basically you're just talking to those neuroreceptors and you're gaining more range of motion through like a reflex mechanism. So just like the hammer that the doc hits on your knee to make it reflex and kick out,
Right.
it's kind of similar. So what happens there is once it hits the knee, the muscle shortens and then it relaxes. So it's going to shorten really fast because it gets that impulse, and then after that it gets more relaxed. So each time the area I'm working on gets a little more relaxed. So that's how we increase your range of motion so quickly, as everything's just opening up, creating more space. You're talking to the joint, getting it to that next level. That way your nervous system knows it can achieve it.
Right.
So, and then, once your nervous system knows it can kind of work with it, and then that's when all the soft tissue work and a lot of the homework comes into play.
Right.
Like you continue doing all that stuff, talking to the tissues, keeping the range of motion that we increased already. And then, over time, your body just adapts to that new range of motion.
So you're a tissue whisperer. You talk to the tissues of the human body. I love it.
And then with my naturopathic degree, that's basically what they say. Like they make us, they categorize us as, I can think of the right word there, as soft tissue specialists.
Got it.
So definitely a tissue whisperer. I like that.
That's
That's a good one. I'll have to
steal
start, start using that.
So I was telling a friend of mine who saw the little teaser we put on Instagram, and actually one of my clients, that I definitely felt better after that one session, but it was one of the most intense experiences I've had in that venue, kind of massage, chiropractic. What does your ideal client look like? And how do you kind of modify intensity based on each person that you're dealing with?
Yeah. So when someone comes in, like every person is going to be at least a little bit different, but like from the people I see, it ranges quite a bit. Ideal client is going to be someone that's already taking care of their body as far as like getting proper sleep, hydration, nutrition, like someone like that that's pretty active and in a healthy age range as well. They're going to respond really quickly and really well to my treatments. Someone else that's a little older, maybe not taking care of themselves, kind of lacking in a lot of those things I mentioned, they're going to need a little bit more. Their body won't respond quite as much, and I don't mean more intensity. I just mean more treatments, and
Got it.
they'll have to do a lot more stretching and stuff on their own. So just like a fitness routine, like it comes over time, you know.
Right.
You can't expect to get these crazy results right off the bat. Sometimes we do with how I work, but
Right.
a lot of people, it's more of the long run. We're trying to teach these people how to live a healthier life in the future, like by showing these exercises, talking to them a little bit about getting proper sleep and hydration and all that. Like,
Right.
there's just a lot that goes into this,
Right.
more than just the work that you see in the videos.
So, like a personal trainer you at once were and I am, I always kind of do an interview and find out what their goals are. You know, sometimes they want to get fit in 3 months for a vacation or
Right.
whatever. So I guess you kind of have to ascertain how fast they want the recovery. Like, I mean, obviously, if a UFC fighter has a fight in 2 weeks, you need to upgrade the experience and frequency to get them ready. But if someone is just trying to start moving again and they're maybe out of shape, it might be a kind of a longer, slower process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got it.
So with that, like if we're pretty rushed, like a fighter that has a fight in 2 or 3 weeks, we'll get them in there multiple days a week, maybe probably up to 3. Like usually I like one rest day after an appointment, at least one rest day. But someone like that, we're treating a lot more often. Their body can handle it too. They recover faster.
Right.
But your average person, they'll need a few days in between treatments. So a lot of times I'll book them a week out, and then depending on how they're doing that session, if they are doing a lot better, we'll push out the next session a little further. But if they're making slow progress and we think they need to stick on a shorter plan, then we will. We'll see them weekly for however many weeks until they make that next jump, and then from there we're just like, okay, we can push it out a little bit farther now.
But it seemed a little different, your philosophy, as far as like, you know, your traditional chiropractor, where it's kind of like, I'm going to see you forever. And we're going to do twice a week, and then we're going to do maintenance. And you kind of, sounds like you have kind of a light at the end of the tunnel, which kind of means if they do their homework and continue to do those things you teach them to do, they don't have to keep seeing you. Is that?
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be the main goal there. With someone that comes in, we want to be able to teach them everything that they can to be comfortable on keeping healthy on their own. So that's where all the exercise rehab prescription comes in handy. So using a foam roller, lacrosse ball, stretching bands, different things like that. We can go through the self-mounted fascial release part of it, and then we get into a stretching part of it, and then a strengthening part of it. So you get those 3 components that should help someone long-term deal with whatever they're they're doing. It's like say you have a bumped shoulder, and at first you don't have the mobility, so it's just a lot of soft tissue work. They have to roll out quite a bit and then start stretching a bit. Once they get that increased range of motion, we have to get it stronger to keep that, right? So then we give them some band work, some safe exercises to do at home, make sure that they're not doing the wrong exercises. So I always like if like a shoulder injury, for example, usually I'm going to make sure they're not going to do like front raises or anything else that might be a little bit tough. Like all rotational stuff should come from band work. It shouldn't come from dumbbells, because just the way the angles work and gravity works, like that could be very detrimental on joints. So ideally 5-6 sessions for someone that has a particular injury, and they should be kind of good to go on their own, and then just check in every now and then. So when they're feeling off a little bit, or they haven't been doing their homework, like that always happens. Someone starts feeling great and they just stop doing what we taught them. And they're like, hey, you're back. And they're like, yeah, I haven't been doing my homework, so it's tight again. It's like,
just like with training.
Yeah, it's like you have to keep up with this. It's just like brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
Like if your teeth are great in a great place, it doesn't mean you stop brushing them. Pretty soon, like you know what's going to happen. Like same thing with your muscles. Yep. Dental hygiene, muscle hygiene, like you have to take care of them to long term. It's a process.
100%.
It's ongoing.
Let's see how the end of the experience went with Dr. Plake.
All right, see where we're at with those tests. So reaching down was fine, so we can do that again just to make sure. A little increased mobility.
Feels good, yeah.
Good. Let's go backwards now. So that was a little painful last time. Let's see.
Little pain on the left side, but I feel like I have more range of motion.
Okay. So yeah, this is what I mean. Basically, there's something going on, so I just gotta find that spot that unlocks you. Good. Come forward a little bit. Backward. Forward. And back. Yeah, so treating you and the table is a lot different than treating you standing, so this is a little more functional. So now that we're in this position, I can find more tissue adhesions and little bundles of trigger points. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of these spots I wasn't able to feel a second ago because the tissue was relaxed, but now that it's active, it's there. I feel like you went through battle today.
Yeah.
It's been through war.
But like,
it's gonna be helpful. You'll be sore from this. Soreness is expected. I always tell people 24 to 48 hours after, kind of like a workout.
Right.
So it shouldn't be much more soreness than just like a hard workout. And then after that, you get a good sense of how everything's feeling. You should stay looser that whole time. So once the pain goes, like once the soreness goes away, then you'll be really feeling good. Feeling good and moving good. That's what we want. All right, retest after that. So go backwards again. Even farther for sure. How's that feel?
good.
Better now?
Yeah.
Good. Inside. Cross your fingers in. Chin down. So this is good for now. Relax yourself and keep your feet in place. I'm going to pull you back into me.
Okay. Ooh.
There you go.
That was a good crack.
It's called super pops, though. That just helps release the whole upper back and lower cervical.
Man, that was
It's a lot, right?
an experience.
Yeah.
Like, I've done a lot to keep moving, and that is like next level.
Yeah. So you can see how much we did there. We did a ton of different things, and I mean, all within about an hour or so. So between all the mobilizations, all the tissue work, different positions, like we addressed several different muscles.
That's like,
So it's hard to find another therapist that does that. That's why we try to combine everything. And
yeah, this was great.
yeah, there's a lot more bilateral. So. Cool. Awesome, brother.
Wow, I'm just reliving that. Like I said there, I've done a lot to keep moving, especially since I've turned 50 or even 40, and like someone that spends that much time and just brings out a different tool to attack it in a different way, and like you almost were like, I'm not going to stop until he gets to a certain level of recovery here. That was like, not only was it like different, of a different mindset, it was like, wow, this guy kind of cares, and he's like not satisfied with when you did the standing mobilization thing, that was really cool.
Yeah, so once we do that retest and it's not quite where I want it, like the person's still in pain or not moving as much as I think they should be moving, I'm the type of person that just continues. Like sometimes my sessions go into the next one just because I'm not satisfied. I'm like, I need to get this. So it just really forces me to work harder. And all that comes from a little bit of my personality. Like my birthday's next month, so I'm a Taurus. So that makes me stubborn, of course.
Right.
So once I don't achieve something to my satisfaction, like I'm going to keep going to get where I need to go. Secondly, former athlete, like I said, and I've seen a lot of different therapists, and a lot of times I was super disappointed by the time I left them. So in my mind, I don't want anyone to ever be disappointed by the time they leave my office. I want them to kind of rave about it, like just think everything of me. That way they can tell all their friends. And that's kind of how this has all happened and how I've gotten so busy. Like it's just all word of mouth and a lot of Instagram stuff, like showing these videos, showing what I do.
Right.
And yeah, people have really gotten onto it and have a good, steady clientele. Like it's been 7 months that I've been here now. I have a full schedule, booked out a week or two. So
awesome.
It just all came together with just believing in myself and just doing giving each person my best, basically.
Yeah, and I think that that you get that. If you don't get it at the beginning, you definitely get it by the end. That you care, and that I think is special. So keep doing that. I want to respect your time. I know you got clients. That was amazing. I learned so much. I hope you also learned so much. How do people get in contact with your services?
Yeah, so the best way is if you have an Instagram, like just go to my Instagram page. I have my scheduler on there. You can also message me. I usually respond pretty quickly to messages. My Instagram is going to be dr.sean.plake. So
awesome.
My first and last name there.
Awesome.
But yeah, just contact me there. You can see my videos and kind of see what you're getting into
right.
ahead of time as well.
Right. And you'll see this later today on YouTube. So again, thanks so much for your time.
Absolutely.
Thank you all for watching and listening. And like, subscribe, share, write a review. And until next time, Fit Fam, I'm out.
'Cause I can feel the